Hello everyone, welcome back to the place in the sun, my little place in the internet where I share things that bring me joy. And today I'm coming with a June review in my practice of 52 weeks of tarot, where every week I work with a different tarot and see how it fits into my practice, how I can use it further on. Is it still something that I want to keep using? Getting to know my decks a little bit better, what I already have in my collection. June was a little bit of a hard month health wise. I was struggling a lot, so it didn't really work so well. Um, Even though everything here is nicely filled in, it's been in like different chunks and places because it was a real struggle. I was struggling a lot with even getting near my cards. I had a lot of physical symptoms that got much worse, and then the effect also my mental health got quite bad, and unfortunately also with a brain fog it was really hard for me to do really anything. So it was a really weird month when it comes to doing things. I tried to adapt my practice a little bit to still have something going on. Also, I did declutter some stuff in the meantime, and two of the decks that have been used this month also happened to in the end be decluttered. So moving into the actual practice. The first deck that I started using before I started feeling very bad is Zeke's Arcana. So as June being a Pride month, I wanted to use something that is fitting into the theme a little bit. And I don't really have a modern LGBTQ decks. It's not really exactly my style. The deck that was the closest, I think, at this point to being something queer. So this is something that I was like, okay, I'm gonna try using it and see how it works. The thing is that this deck I used to love a lot. I used to use it a lot, but during using of it, I started to realize that this is a deck that really talks to my past self, to someone I used to be but not anymore, who I am right now, and how my practice looks right now. So surprisingly enough, in the process of working with this deck, which I was not expecting at all, because like I said, this is a deck that I've used a lot before. I really loved it a lot. I really love the colored palette that exists in here. I realized that I don't have that connection to the deck anymore, that it really speaks to my younger self, and it's not something that I do connect. So weirdly enough, I started playing with the thought of decluttering the deck, of passing it on, especially that it's out of print deck, and there is for sure a lot of people that would like to try it out, play with it more, and I noticed that I'm not reaching for it as much as I could. And I have this thing about decluttering decks that when I have a feeling inside of my body that I am ready to let it go, it's kind of like a decision was made, and the deck stops really existing in my brain space as something to reach for. I get really comfortable with my decisions. I never really buy back the decks that I declutter. Never really think of getting them back. So this is something that when I have this feeling of readiness to let go, it just works like that. So I think this 1 week, it wasn't even the full week, because it's the moment when I already started to slowly struggle playing with it a little bit and realizing that I don't really connect. This is not me anymore, and I would like my collection to represent who I am right now and not who I used to be. That was the moment that I made a decision that this is the deck that I'm gonna part my ways with and pass it to someone who for sure is gonna love it. This beautiful deck. It is abstract in its form, and it's really beautiful. But I moved on from things being kept just because they're beautiful. I really need my things to be there for me to use, and for me to match where I am right now. Especially that I get very overwhelmed with my health, and having a lot of things around makes me struggle a little bit. So I want to, especially in last months, I can see that I have a stronger need of decluttering stuff, reducing things around, and coming back more towards minimalism, where I was starting for years. I was a really strong minimalist. Now owning a house, it came with like having a space to bring maybe some more things, having a lot of hobbies comes with stuff, but I start to realize that this is a lot for me. So this is something that in this month I already started the process of realizing that some things are not really working so well anymore for me, but I can still share what I used as a pairing also with this deck. So this is a Sea Soul Journey. It is not maybe exactly a style matchup, but something about the colors and how they speak with each other, the realistic photography of the water, sea in different forms, with this abstract art. Somehow they still manage to speak with each other. I think there's a lot of similar colors that are pulling these messages together. Also, having that one keyword plays into the art over here that sometimes is a little bit more pippish, so it gives you something to anchor and helps with reading when you feel a little bit more lost with the pips. And I really like this combo, but like I said, still, even though I enjoy the look of it and how they work with each other, I can acknowledge that they work very well together. It still doesn't feel like the space in which I am currently. So that was one of the pairings. And surprisingly, I started to notice more and more decks that my friend Fire wants to play with, because at first it was really tricky to find somewhere where the deck wanted to work with. It's also not exactly the pair that works amazing when it comes to the art styles, but something about the energy of those two decks was speaking to each other. The deck that I often use with this one is also Spreadcrafter's Spreadcrafter Oracles. One moment. The names are not naming. Oh, here it is. It is Spreadcrafter's Oracle. So it's palette. Here, I have the cards. The colored palette in those is very working with each other. So this is something that I very often was using together. Again, I have this like one word that helps me a little bit to concentrate my pips towards something more tangible. So yeah, so this is Zeke Arcana. That was the first deck that's been decluttered that month, and not the last, as later I was going through the whole process with my decks. The next deck that I work with is the Drowning World Tarot. So this is also a deck that I absolutely loved, and I still love the art, especially the major arcana. And to be honest, if the deck would come out as just majors, I would get it, even though I am not really a major arcana decks only person so much. But the art is so beautiful. The pictures, the composition, everything about those is really beautiful. Where I do struggle though is the pips. So the Drowning World is Marseille inspired deck that is using the photography, and some of the cards are much more minimalistic. Like for example, here we have Ace of Pentacles. It is very calm, it's very minimalistic, the composition is really calming me down. But my problem starts when we have pips that started to be much more decorated. So where I struggle with this deck is that its voice is really for me all over the place. I don't know for what the deck really want to be used with me. I've been struggling with it already before. On the days where I was feeling fine in the past, I could use it, no problem. But I notice more and more that I'm struggling with overstimulation because of all the elements on the picture. Somehow it is too busy and it's creating this feeling of anxiety. And that might be that the author wanted to create this feeling, as this is coming to this world that is being destroyed by humanity, drowning world, ecological effects of our work as humans here on Earth. So it comes with this feeling of like our land is being destroyed, we're being flooded. It comes with this feeling, a little bit of an anxiety coming from the destruction. But to be honest, right now, where I am with my personal journey with the fact how much anxieties, pain, and overstimulation I have in everyday life because of my health problems, having it also in a deck started to be too much. So this deck felt like a deck that I want to use when I'm peeling too much to dissect it, but then it was the deck itself started to be too much in these moments. So then it was like, okay, so when I am feeling fine, maybe I can then explore the deck, but it was still not working. It was not matching anything that I was throwing at it. Didn't really come off with the clarity and with the messages that would make sense to me. And in the same context, it was again getting overstimulated with every element that is on the picture. I'm struggling more and more with really busy decks. Some decks I can still work with, they are still fine, but something about it being so many textures, so many different plans. They're not very referenced in the guidebook. The guidebook is also for me a little bit of a machine because some things are coming more as essays, some things are coming more as Rider-Waite-Smith meanings, some are coming more like Marseille meanings. Then some of the entries are like really great and profound that I'm finding so much in them, and in some of them it feels like divination of like tomorrow you're gonna do this and that. So then I also feel like the guidebook was also for me all over the place. It was matching this voice of the deck that was also going in so many directions at the same time, and also things about the compositions of the deck. Very often they feel very close. They're very like enclosing on you, and like I said, it might be that was what the creator wanted. Uh, to have this feeling like the world is enclosing on us and we are destroying the land, so the water is going to come over us, drown the world. But then it makes the meanings of all the cards feel like something stuck, something trapped. And the cards that should be moved forward feels like they're being completely entangled and not able to move forward. So then like almost every reading comes with this meaning of like, where am I stuck? Where can I not move on? So it closes it in certain format. I had the problems with a card like Two of Pentacles, when for me this is something very fluctuating in a sense, like the balance. When we are juggling, we have to move, we have to do these micro adjustments, but the compositions in Two of Pentacles is very balanced and stable, so nothing is changing. Everything is in this position of really stuckness and not moving, not adjusting. So I've been struggling in a sense of how I see cards were not fully corresponding to what I see in a deck. I also have problems with the court cards in here. I don't really jive with the composition of like all the plants put together into the person. I feel like if you would have some reference to maybe what flowers been used, why they've been used, and how they build the person, how do they reference to this symbolism, maybe it would be easier. But like this, it just comes to me as like, here's the some kind of a figure. Believe me that this is Queen of Cups, King of Swords, or whatever. Like it doesn't connect, it doesn't anchor in anything for me when it comes to symbolism, when it comes to what's happening on the card. And then it's those beautiful, beautiful majors that are just so talking to my spirit. But I don't want to keep a deck just because of the majors. I would love it maybe like as art pieces that I could hang on my wall. Here we have those Two Pentacles. When it just really feels stuck, it feels like nothing is moving on, like you're entrapped by everything that is going on, but there's also not really emotion. Like if those coins at least would indicate that you can try juggle and change your situation, here you just feel like you're trapped in it and there's nothing can be changed, and there is some kind of blockage that it doesn't allow you to do that. So like, even though it's beautiful, in many cards I do love, it is very hard for me to use it. And seeing in this practice how many decks I love and I come back to, and I feel so easily to move into their world and to use them, to have a deck in which I have to really struggle and push it back and forth when I'm already having so little energy and struggling to do basic life stuff very often, it was so contradictory. So I started to understand that, like, with some decks, even though they're beautiful and I used to maybe love them and maybe still I like them in a way, that maybe it's not worth keeping them if I cannot really use them in the most efficient way. This is something that came to me also, like, in the process of decluttering. It's like I am getting stuck on old version of myself, on what I used to love, what I used to be able to do, but it's not true anymore for me. And I would maybe do this little metaphor of, like, when we're keeping the clothes for the body that we used to have or that we think that we're gonna have. So then we have a closet full of beautiful things that we cannot use because they're not matching who we are right now. And having this belief that, like, one day I will be able to fit into this thing makes us keep those things, but also in a way backstab us because we are reminded we are not this person. And I think with my journey with accepting certain health issues that I have right now that are not getting better, they are getting worse, is to let go of this old version of myself, the version that was very energetic, could do a lot of things, could play with a lot of stuff, was much more inclined for some kind of maximalism in a way because she could handle it. And there could be more busy things because they were stimulating for the brain, but now feels too much for the same brain. So I am not anymore this person. I cannot fit into those things, and keeping them is just a reminder of who I used to be and cannot be anymore, in place of actually fully accepting that's who I am right now, and I have to work with this version of myself. And there is very little chances that I'm gonna become again the person that can do all those things. So let's reduce it. Let's keep around me the things that I can truly enjoy, that I can truly play, and that I can feel my life being fulfilling and not lacking in a sense. So I think those two decks and working with them, like, here and there, because those 2 weeks were already a lot of struggle and I was not really keeping that practice in the way it used to be. So it really started this process of looking for my decks in the process of, like, is this a dress for a past or future me that might not ever exist, or is this something that I can use right now? So then I came to changing my practice teeny tiny bit. So to reduce a little bit shuffling, to reduce a little bit overwhelm, I came to using the deck that also just arrived that month. This was something that was absolute dream of mine to get. This is a really comfort deck for me. This is a Magic Pantry Tarot. The color palette, the element of food that brings us comfort, the feeling of summer that is abundant, but also has this element of joy and some elements of work, since for some of those plants we have to go harvest them. It was really what I needed. So how my practice changed, I would be pulling one card from the Magic Pantry. I would explore what the guidebook's meaning is, and then use the same card as exploration. How can I find comfort in this day? And like this, I was just pulling one card. I didn't have to pull multiple cards. And then, since there is something that is very tangible in our world, I was trying to use that ingredient in some way to bring it into my day. So if there would be a strawberry, I would try to get some strawberries and maybe eat some strawberries, add them to something. If there would be some other ingredients, or in case of stove, I would try to prepare some meal to have a moment of like meditation while preparing the meals. So in this way I could get to know the deck, but also have much simpler practice that really grounded me into my everyday life, and tried to find a little tiny thing that can bring me comfort in the moments when I was really struggling. And what I was also pairing it with is I was pulling one card from this one and one card from Season of the Witch, Litha Oracle, and like this, making a little message that was grounding me in my everyday life and simplify it really a lot so I can manage the practice, so I can try to do something. And from this moment when I started doing this, it really helped me to come back to cards after a long break, after like trying and again failing, trying, failing. So this was something that really anchored me into my daily life. So that would be the magic pantry. And then, as that was also in June, we have summer solstice. Of course, I did take out Children of Litha deck. This is also one of the decks that for me it's a comfort deck. It comes with the fantasy world full of animals and creatures that are a mix of different also magical creatures, so dragons, fairies. So in this context, it brings you into this really fantasy world, a bit of a runaway from the reality, but also the comfort of animals. It has very short entries in the guidebook, so I can really easily digest it. I really also love the color palette. It was something that was also simplified. I love pulling less cards, but at the same time, I felt a little bit more energized to try pulling some more different pairings for those and play with it. Whatever I throw onto this deck, it was handling it. So suddenly, after struggling with 2 decks a lot this month, I got a deck that I can read so easily, and it really holds me in whatever I want to ask. I don't have to struggle with it. I can really play with it as a context of playing different games, as it also has this RPG a little bit vibe, but also I can do readings with it. I can also just enjoy the art because it's absolutely beautiful. I really love Xia Hunt's art. I have, I think, all the decks that she produced so far. So it is really something that is of a comfort. So this second part of the June started to really be about finding again myself and putting something with joy and comforting into my daily lives when I was already bottling a lot. So for the pairings, one of the most easy one for me is a Spread Crafters Quest deck. So this is the expansion from the major deck, and in this context, when we are having this fantasy RPG world, it is really simple to pull this one and play with them. See them more as kind of gamification of your everyday life. The colors are also speaking very beautifully between those decks, so you can pull them in when discussing when exploring the reading. You don't need a lot. You can pull really 2 cards and you can already jump into really nice reading. So that was one of the decks. Another deck that really work well, I think the energies of those decks are speaking very well, because for me Summer Solstice is very fire energy, so then having my friend Fire to work with it is something that was working very well, and it was making the readings much more down to earth, I would say, weirdly enough. It was also bringing these little sparkles of inspiration to reach for something that was still doable despite different issues in my life. It was small enough that I could achieve it, but it was bringing a little bit more of those sparks of joy and happiness into my everyday life. So there would be my friend Fire. One more deck that I really felt pulled towards. I think I really had this feeling of wanting to play with stuff and reaching her feelings, and that for me bring this associations of games, playing, and joy. This is a deck of many things that is illustrated by Yoshi Yoshitani. This is something that can be used in D&D. We're using it in our D&D campaign, but it is also meant as an oracle. This is the, I think it's called holographic edition or special edition, so it has a bit of a shine on it. It comes with two sets of a deck of many things, so each card is coming as a black and gray, but also as a color version, and depending on it they have a different meanings. So this is like underworld and upper world kind of a situation. So sometimes you will have those cards that are more colorful, and sometimes you can have this black and gray, but still they worked very well if there was color, if not. And it brings this element of play, joy. How can I bring gaming into everyday life and make my life a little bit more playful and enjoyable? It was really an enjoyable pairing. I really loved it. It made me want to use this deck much more, and then it also started to be used in July with the deck that I am using right now in the first week of July. It is absolute joy to use it, and so that would be the last deck of the month, so Children's of Litha. So I'm still happy that I was able to find my way to come back to this practice, even though the first 2.5 weeks were a little bit on and off, and I could not really concentrate very well. I could not really do a lot of things. So then trying to adjust this practice to fit it where I am currently and what I can do and what I cannot do, it was a really good lesson. And I think it also showed me even more how important for me is to curate my collection to really match me and my abilities in the present moment. And it started a lot of thinking process, it started a lot of exploration and working through certain things. So I'm really grateful that I, like, with every month I think like it opens a new aspect of my practice, and how can I adjust, change it, that it really matches what I want to do. I have a full year, so for me really important this year is to experiment, to play, to do different things with my decks, to see how I can bring new elements into my practice, and how can I bring more joy and fun and play and do those things in a way that is not overwhelming for me and doesn't make me give up on my practice, but makes me really want to come to it in the moments of struggle. So thank you for being here, and hopefully see you soon.